SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Want to cut your heating costs this season? With a highly efficient York heating and air conditioning system, you can save up to 50% in energy costs while enjoying tax credits and TVA energy rebates as much as $3,000. Your local York dealer. Visit harbonair.com to schedule a free evaluation of your system.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good grief. Good morning as well, and welcome to MidDays here in the Element Wealth Studios. Dave Hughes in on this Friday. And I got to tell you, normally I have this sheet and I write everything out. I've talked about it before. It's basically a tickler list. It's a bullet-pointed list to remind me of various stories that I have researched and prepped, and I'm ready to go. And I normally have about 12 to 15 things. I've got like 25 on here this morning. There's a lot of stuff to talk about today, and we'll get to maybe half of it. That's the way it usually works. Rhino over in the booth, I am very, very proud. My chest is puffed out to report I have a longer beard than Rhino today.
It's that time of year.
Yes, this time of year, every year, I get to claim that, and but it's coming back in nicely as usual. You grow a beard quickly.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
If I had a job where I had to be clean shaven, I would hate it. But since it's for a good cause, I like it.
I would suspect you're one of those people that you would get up and shave in the morning, and then you'd have to shave again in the middle of the day somewhere. That just seems like a bit much to me.
Yeah, the 5 o'clock shadow is about 2:30.
the 2:30 shadow. Oh, yes, we're familiar with that. The heat, we're going to get a little bit of a break from the heat. That's good. We'll take that, definitely. Yesterday, we had a storm that came in and sat for a few hours down here in southwest Mississippi. I don't know if you saw the weather maps. The feels like temperature yesterday afternoon in Pike County was 81 because of the storm. I'll take it. I'm hoping we pull that again today. That would be nice. I'm not betting the rent money on it, but it would be nice. Anyway, how you been doing, man?
Oh, not too terribly bad. I mean, it's been kind of a sad week here at the studio with the passing of Lance, and it feels like that's kind of been a drain on the energy. So I was thinking as I was walking in this morning, I was like, I haven't really worked that much harder this week, haven't done that much more show prep, but I am exhausted. I am so glad we've made it to Friday. Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. It was when I got the call Tuesday morning letting me know what had happened. Wasn't too long after that, I went home for lunch. I thought I was perky. I thought everything was fine. I walked in the door and my wife looked up and said, "Hey, baby, what's wrong?" Because I don't know about you. Let me ask you this question. It just feels like, how do I put this? My brain has been going in weird directions for the entire week because of losing Lance, and just contemplating things and thinking about things that, you normally don't. I've been distracted, I think would be a fair way to put it. What about you?
Yeah, because it was so sudden, and he was still so young, and we still don't know very much. So it was one of those gut punch and rug pulls all at the same time.
It was sudden, completely unexpected. I mean, Lance went 24/7. He and I talked about it all the time. He never stopped. He never slowed down, and that's the way he liked it. And he had been that way forever, his entire life, from what I got from him. And like you said, just out of nowhere, it's like you're walking down the street and somebody hits you in the back of the head that you didn't know was there, and it takes you a little while to get your equilibrium back. So I would like to say, and this is going to apply to most people on the air, everybody on the air, on both sides, if we've seemed a little off this week, it's because we've been a little off this week. Next week, I think once we have the weekend to have some processing time, some downtime, we'll have a much firmer footing. But this week has been, I don't know, just kind of walking around in a daze.
We got Marshall and Terry on the C Spire text line said, it's times like these we actually think about our own morality.
Yes, I have had those thoughts. I made this comment the other day, I think it was yesterday, when I was on Mornings with Will. Because, of course, heavy on my mind, because that's the first time in years I've filled in on Mornings, and there was no longer a Lance to be involved. But I got to telling Will, we were cleaning out a room at our house a couple of weekends ago. And in one of the boxes that we were going through of just stuff, just the books and everything else, just stuff, found like 5 or 6 envelopes of old pictures. Now, when I say envelopes, here's a little throwback for you. I'm talking about the little sleeve envelopes with the fold-down flap, had the negatives in the front, and they printed them out. I'm so old. But they were pictures I had taken at radio stations that I had worked at. And I had taken pictures of the people that I worked with. And I'm about this is a couple of weeks ago. I'm going through it, and I'm telling my wife who everybody is and what they did. And I'm like, well, that's so-and-so. Well, he's not here anymore. He died. This is so-and-so. Well, he's dead. I didn't have a picture of a single still living person in any of those envelopes. And that started me down this path of thinking that way. And I'm like, okay, apparently radio is not a safe industry to be in. It is. Let's not call it what it's not. But boy, it just feels that way right now. And this week did not help, because we lost a great guy and a good friend.
I don't know if it's because I'm a little cold or jaded, or maybe it's just confidence. But I'm sitting there looking at it going, I know I've got more than 10 years left.
Yeah.
But that's the, like when he said talking about thinking about your mortality, that hasn't happened to me this week for some strange reason. But I have been thinking about, well, that's only 10 years away. That's not a long time in the grand scheme of things. So I guess I have thought about it, just not in the way you typically think about it.
Yeah. Well, I look at it, and I've got a birthday coming up in less than a month now. And when I hit that birthday, I will be 15 years away from the age that my dad died. So I had already been thinking about that. And then I found those pictures. And this week this happened with Lance. Lance, by the way, you're thinking about, 10 years. I got more than 10 years. I know I've got more than -8, because he was 8 years younger than me, which kind of makes it hit harder and a little different. I'm just going to say what I said at the close of the morning show yesterday. I'm going to say it again right now at the beginning of Middays. Your friends, your family, hug them. Spend a little time with them. And tell them the things that you would say after they're gone now to their face. Because we've all been saying, I haven't heard an inaccurate statement yet about Lance. He was one heck of a guy and a very unique individual. And I count myself lucky in that we had the kind of relationship. I had told him that. We had these conversations and said, dude, I told him, I said, You're who I want to be when I grow up. And he said, you're older than I am. I said, don't ruin a moment, Lance. And he just laughed. Have those conversations. We tend to shy away from that. You could improve someone's life by saying all the things you would normally say once they die and you want to honor them. Honor them to their face. Tell them these things. Have these conversations. You're going to feel better for having told them. And they're going to feel better in this world that we live in these days for having heard it. So you're going to improve 2 lives, and one of them is your own. So I guarantee you, while I've been saying that, somebody popped in your mind. Call them. Go see them. Invite them over. Grill some weenies. Something. I don't know. Dealer's choice, but have those conversations. I don't care if you feel awkward doing it. It's not about you. Except that it really is. We got a great show lined up for today. Got a beauty of a topic to start off with. We're going to go to Yazoo City, Rhino. When we come back, if you haven't heard about this, here on Middays in the Element Well Studios, keep it here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Friday morning, we have made it to the end of the week. Dave Hughes in the chair on this Friday in the Element Wealth Studios. In case you haven't heard what's going on in Yazoo City, they had a shooting there Wednesday night. The 911 call came in at 9:37. That's important. Remember that. We'll get back to it. Well, as a result of that, the mayor of Yazoo, Macklin Austin is his name, well, he decided something needed to be done. And the thing that he decided to do was declare an emergency and put a curfew in place. He put this out yesterday. Said, effective at 11 p.m. tonight, last night, a citywide curfew will be in effect from 11 p.m. until 6 a.m. each day and will remain in force until 6 a.m. Monday. So for the weekend, he has put a curfew in place to try to combat this. This will be very unsurprising, but I got some things to say about this. I'm not sure shutting down the world is the way to go, my personal opinion on that. But more importantly, if you're trying to get things under control after somebody was shot and killed at 9:30 at night, a curfew from 11 to 6 doesn't seem like an appropriate response. If this curfew had just been in place, well, it wouldn't have mattered. Wednesday, that happened at 9:30. And don't misunderstand me. I get the intention. The intention here is the mayor feels like and suspects, and probably rightfully so, that there's going to be some pushback. The community is going to be stirred up, unsettled. Might be retaliatory actions, things like that, and just wants to calm things down. I get that. Makes perfect sense. But this goes back to what I always say, focusing on the results and not the process. The result in this case is don't want any more shootings. Want to try to curb that. Okay, worthy goal. Well done. Got to do something. We just had somebody shot at 9:30 on Wednesday night. We don't want that to happen again. We don't want this to escalate. I know. We'll make everybody go home at 11. And I get that it's a suppressive action in terms of people getting in trouble. What Mama always say, nothing good happens after midnight. I get that. I understand that. However, I have seen a lot of blowback, and I think justified. So we're just going to shut everybody else's life down for that 7 hours a night because other people can't do what they're supposed to do and act the way they're supposed to act. I just feel like this, to me, it smells like gonna do this because we got to do something. And I'm not sure that's the way to go. We need to address the problems. We need to deal with the problems. Now, that's an easy sentence to say, obviously. You can just say that and go on about your business and, you sound like a genius, right? No, none of this is easy or simple. But locking the people during this week of Dr. Fauci pleading the fifth 111 times, deciding to lock people in their homes in response to some sort of crisis might not be the PR move you want to go for this week. Just thinking. No, we've got problems everywhere. We've got this specific problem everywhere. They just arrested 5 people for the 4th of July weekend shooting down in Centerville. One of them they arrested in Ohio. So it's not a localized problem necessarily. So we have these problems all over the place. We've got to come up with a better option than this. Now, I do want to make sure that we state, and we make this clear, the purpose of a curfew, from a law enforcement standpoint, from a legal standpoint, the purpose of the curfew is not to keep everybody locked up at home necessarily. It gives probable cause if any law enforcement sees you out on the street between 11 and 6 to stop you and say, what are you doing? Where are you going? And check things out. It gives them official legal cover, probable cause, to stop anybody, anywhere, at any time. Usually you have to have some kind of probable cause. This street has a speed limit of 30 miles an hour. That guy's doing about 70. Well, I now have probable cause. They're swerving back and forth. Yeah, I can do that. You have to have a pretext. You have to have a reason. When a curfew is in place, during the hours of that curfew, that's your pretext. You can stop anybody, every single person you see, and ask them where they're going, what are they doing. That's the purpose of a curfew. A lot of people get that messed up. But we have to come up with a better methodology for dealing with this than everybody go home, don't move, sit tight, close your door, draw the blinds, lock the windows, and wait. There's good intentions behind it, but where does that end? If you have a curfew from 11 till 6, and yeah, I'm using Yazoo City as an example here because it's the example this week. This is the topic. A lot of people talking about this. So we're using it as an example, but this applies to everyone. who puts a curfew into place, because it's seen as an ideal first step. Two things. Number one, so you're telling me you're going to put another law into place to stop the people from breaking laws, who have been breaking laws. By definition, a lawbreaker is somebody that doesn't care what the rules are. So you're not stopping them. You've got probable cause to pull them over, stop them, and possibly get in the way of something happening before it happens. That's a good effect. But what's the logical end result that you're going for here? We all know, you and I know, the end result is not crime goes away and no one gets shot anymore. It doesn't work that way. Never has, never will. Do we then start to see an extension of curfews? Do we end up, and this is ridiculous on the face of it, I know, but do we end up with everybody locked in their house and you get 1 hour a day free? I mean, if it's working for that 7 hours, we got to extend it. I've seen plenty of curfews extended. We better start dealing with the root problems. We better start dealing with this. And to me, the root problem is not who's out of their house at what time of day or night. The root problem is we have an entire generation of people who are not afraid of consequences. They don't care. Had a story this week. A kid, was it Ohio? I think Indiana, one of those states. They all kind of blur together. Sentenced to 100 years in prison for killing a couple of people. He's 15. We have an entire generation plus that does not care about the consequences. I'm going to do what I want. That's the problem we have to address. How do we address it? Give them consequences they can't ignore. Yeah. We'll continue on this Friday morning as we build on a cheerful discourse right after this in the Element Wealth Studios on SuperTalk Mississippi. Keep it here.
From the Seabrook.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Middays, SuperTalk Mississippi in the Element Wealth Studios. You can go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. Sports Talk this afternoon on the road. They're at the Laurel Sportsplex. It's the Diamond Youth Baseball World Series. Down on Highway 84, 11 different states with teams in town to compete in the World Series. Going to be a big weekend, and Sports Talk is going to help kick it off this afternoon starting at 3 here on Super Talk Mississippi. Make sure to stick around for that. Rhino, we'll get back to the Yazoo thing. Have you been keeping up with what's going on in Spain right now?
Yes and no. Is it technically Spain or is it Spanish territory?
Kind of Spanish territory. The two cities that they have are technically in Moroccan territory, but they're controlled by Spain. And I'm going to butcher pronouncing them. Ceuta and something else. Starts with an M. But that's the first point of contact, basically, between Morocco and Spain, these two towns. The estimates are anywhere from 50 to 100,000 Moroccans have stormed the border and just kind of collapsed it and went in. And now they're looting stores and they're running wild everywhere. They're calling the military in. Is this remotely surprising? We knew this kind of thing was going to happen somewhere eventually, didn't we? Just with the way things have been going.
Well, this was exacerbated by, I don't know if it was a law or a court decision or something in the Spanish legal system or government that said the Moroccans who entered those areas cannot be deported, or at least that was the loose interpretation.
Yeah, the Spanish president actually came out and said that. He was going to grant amnesty to anyone that came in from Morocco, and apparently everybody went, whee, and just stormed the gates, literally. Now the president has since come back. 41 dead so far, by the way. The president has now come back and said that everyone that can and should be legally deported will be deported. And they're supposedly sending the military in to deal with this. Because you have to imagine, they get in there, they're not going to stop there. That's a huge number of people when you consider that that's more people than live in either of those cities. That's being overrun, isn't it?
It's pretty much a definition of invasion.
Yes. We've been throwing that word around, and that kind of bothers me because as we continue to try to sensationalize everything, we have been using the word invasion for quite some time. Two people come across the border, it's an invasion! No. As a result, when something like this happens that I think any reasonable person would qualify as an actual honest-to-goodness invasion, that word has lost some of its juice because it's been overused. I have to wonder sometimes, it goes back to what we were saying at the top. I'm in a very cynical mood this week. Is that on purpose that we're taking some of the juice out of some of these words so that when there is an invasion of between 50,000 and 100,000 people from one country to another, we hear invasion and go, oh, yeah, it's just another day that ends in Y.
I would agree with you, but that would give far too much credit to the mealy-mouthed midwits that have been the ones that have overused words to the point that they have lost all meaning.
Yeah, you got a point. You got a point. What's the old expression? Never attribute to malice that which can be easily explained by stupidity.
Oh, yeah, Hanlon's razor.
Yeah. And that's probably part of the case here. But I don't think people realize how important that aspect of it is. Because the words that you use to define reality, in large part, help affect what that reality is. And if you reach the point where everything is a catastrophe, then nothing is a catastrophe. And you don't react appropriately. You're just... your nerve endings are deadened. Because, I mean, this, I want you to picture... let's picture the city of Jackson. And I use that one because it's 100,000 people. Let's say 100,000 people from another country broke down the defenses and came storming into Jackson and started looting stores, 41 people dead. We've just reached the point where it feels like invasion would not even be an appropriate word anymore. But what do you use? Where do you go? We've already maxed out the rhetoric to the point to where none of it seems to have any use in defining what's happening. I'm not even sure there is a fix for that. We've ruined the souffle. It has fallen. Yeah, did you ever have that experience? Your mom will put a cake or a souffle or something in the oven, and then you weren't allowed to run around and jump in the house because you're going to make it fall?
It was never a souffle, but she made this thing called amalgamation cake.
Oh, hello.
She got out the big, really loud, probably deafening, in a clinical sense, grinder, and started putting raisins and coconuts and pecans and all kind of goodies like that into it. And it made a really dense, heavy, wouldn't even be called an icing. I guess it'd be called a frosting or something like that. But yeah, if it was a particularly humid day she was trying to make it, or she had certain weather patterns she was watching for, and when those days, when everything lined up and she could make one, she'd start making it. And as soon as she started putting the amalgamation frosting on it, it was like, all right, everything comes to a standstill. Don't breathe on it.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, the whole thing would just crumble in on itself because the frosting was so heavy.
Okay, that makes sense. So basically what you're describing is like a fruit and nut grout.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I don't mean that in any kind of negative way. It sounds awesome. I love me a good, what was it? Was it one of those things that's kind of gritty, or?
It had some texture to it because, I mean, the grinder wasn't turning it into a paste. It was just turning it into smaller pieces of pecan and coconut and raisins and dates and all that good stuff.
Okay, I am in no way criticizing. It sounds delicious. So,
well, she eventually modified it away from a cake because that was too time-consuming and or difficult to get done correctly, and found a recipe for basically the similar ingredients but in a pie, and it became amalgamation pie. And if you ever have the fortune of having a slice of amalgamation pie, it tastes like you're eating gourmet cookie dough.
Oh. Why are you doing this to me an hour before lunch? We were talking about Spain getting invaded, and now suddenly I'm starving. Thanks. See, if it was me, I would have made the suggestion, yeah, it's too much trouble. Just make me a big bowl of that fruit and nut grout and give me a spoon. I'm in. Did you get to clean the bowl?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's an important part of the process. Some people don't understand how important that is. But there's a great analogy there in what you're talking about. You take the fruit, you take the raisins, which are technically fruit, but I have them in their own little category over here that I sneer at every so often. And of course, as is the case with all mixtures that are going to wind up being good, you gotta have a bunch of nuts. And then you grind it all together and make something great. Well, we keep over-adding the nuts, got plenty of fruits, and we seem to be skipping the grinding. As I have said before, America is a beautiful melting pot, but that involves melting. And we kind of stop that. They're having that problem in Europe in spades right now. They've just been welcoming everybody in. Come on in. Oh, it's great. No, you're fine. You're fine. If anybody says anything bad to you, let me know. We'll arrest them. And now it almost feels like we're moving on to the next logical step in that process. Are we looking at a situation to where the face of the majority of Earth is about to undergo a big change, do you think?
It's possible, but I mean, there is an actionable response that the United States of America has used in its past when it had too much migration and not enough assimilation. You just cut off the spigot.
Yep. It's not that hard. If the basement's flooding, turn the water off. Doesn't seem complicated. But boy, have we had to fight tooth and nail to move in that direction, haven't we? Spain hasn't moved hard enough. In fact, they said, no, come on in, you're welcome, you don't have to leave. And now look what's happening. It's a great lab case half a world away of what happens when you don't keep a close eye on that spigot. We continue on your Friday morning on Middays right after this. Keep it here.
Whether it's help with hormone.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. The Element Wealth Studios. Dave Hughes on Middays. Have an update on the Moroccan invasion of Spain. According to the Spanish Prime Minister and other authorities there, they had about 60,000 people cross the border since yesterday. Just crashed through the border, knocked it down. According to the Spanish government, about 25,000 of them have already turned around and went back. Because as it turns out, well, the Moroccans ruined everything. They've been breaking into stores and houses and looting and all of this stuff. And then the military showed up, and about half of the ones that came over said, whoop, nope, sorry, we're going back, never mind, and went back. Which is a good response to things, if that's the case. But that's the other thing. That's the other place that we live in now. How much do you trust the reports you're getting? That's been a real problem in Europe in general for a while. I would think that after what, we had in June and July, that the Spanish government will bow up to make sure the Moroccans don't get to the World Cup trophy, right?
No, Europe's bowing up against FIFA for all different reasons at this point. If you haven't heard about this, apparently in the infinite wisdom of Gian Infantino, or whatever the president's name is of FIFA, he wants to sell shares in the World Cup to private equity, to investors, and set it all up, and then sent out a memo to the confederations like UEFA in Europe and CONCACAF in North America and CAF in Africa, and said, hey, every country that votes yes on this will get a $40 million bonus. And if you vote no, you still get $10 million. We're not leaving you out in the cold. Trying to massage the results. And UEFA came out pretty much immediately and said, hey, this is wrong, and then held an emergency meeting and said, yeah, we're going to boycott the World Cups if this goes through.
That literally, and I'm sorry, you just do simple math. If you vote yes, you get 40 million. If you vote no, you get 10 million. Okay, you subtract the 10 from the 40. That means they're buying votes for $30 million each.
And in previous iterations of FIFA, that would have been par for the course, it seems like.
Yeah, and, we're going back to the old ways, apparently, or they really, really want to. I am glad, the one good thing is President Trump went back into office, and the border made a clanging noise as it shut. We're not really having any more of a problem right now. But you got to remember, the border was technically closed and being monitored, and I say technically because they were still letting people through all the time. This was a case of tens of thousands of people just bum rushed the border, knocking down fences and everything else, and just stormed the city. You have to be prepared for that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was the problem with the initial reporting on the invasion of Spain, was you had this video of the people going around a fence that ends at the ocean and another group on a boat showing up. So the initial reporting was like, wow, they crossed the Strait of Gibraltar and just hit mainland Spain without any... Like, you had to get all the way to the bottom of the article to be like, oh, wait, these were territories in northern Africa.
Yeah. Yeah. They were, the Prime Minister referred to Ceuta as, what was the term? I'd have to go look it up. I was just reading it before we came back on the air. But like autonomous city, I think is what he referred to it as. We claim it, like their taxes, but they're kind of their own thing. So, yeah, it's a weird situation all the way around, as many situations in Europe are.
And people have been arguing that Spain doesn't have any right to hold that territory on a completely different continent and all this kind of stuff, and how they can't lay claim to it because they've only been there since 1415. And hold up. Pretty sure there are major European and capitals in the area that were conquered sooner than 1415. So do we really want to go down that rabbit hole?
No. No, but, we pick and choose. We cherry pick what examples we want to use as upholding what is right.
Because I'm fairly certain the Turks didn't take over Constantinople until like the late 1400s.
Yeah, I think so. This world's messed up. I think that's what we're trying to tell you here. I don't know. Are we even trying to tell them anything at this point right now?
It's Friday. We're just having fun.
Yeah, we're just griping. It's my idea of a good time. Let's gripe. Oh, I got plenty more. We've barely touched the surface of the list, and we'll get back into it right after news from Fox News, SuperTalk Mississippi News at 11:20. Caleb Sailors is going to join us from SuperTalk Mississippi News. I'm sure he'll bring an entire passel of things for us to gripe about, too. It's just that kind of day here on SuperTalk Mississippi in the Element Wealth Studios. Keep it here.
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Middays on Super Talk Mississippi in the Element Wealth Studios. Dave Hughes with you on a Friday morning. I'm sorry, during the break I was reading up on the whole FIFA nonsense, and that's getting stupider by the second, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It looks like the CONCACAF, which is what the U.S. plays in, the North American Federation, they put out a statement saying they would also boycott further World Cups, which puts the total of no votes at like 106, 110, something like that. And they need somewhere in the neighborhood of 140 to vote against it.
And it sounds like they're quickly moving in that direction. I mean, it's just a cash grab. That's all it is.
Which is insane considering how much money they literally just made.
Yeah. They just had, would you think, you keep up with this, would you think it would be fair to say that was, if not the most successful World Cup ever, it's in the top 5?
Well, I mean, it beat the previous attendance record during the group stage before the knockout rounds ever started. And that attendance record was set in 94 by the U.S. World Cup. And the economic impact studies that were done during the World Cup showed that the group stage alone had the economic impact of 8 Super Bowls.
Wow. Wow. And I will be honest, the interest surprised me. The level of attention that it got surprised me. I didn't think it was going to, get to quite that level, but it did. And good stuff.
Well, it had two things going for it. America loves a winner, and the U.S. started out hot, winning games convincingly, so that helped. But also, if you look at the casual sports fan in America, they are very willing to get behind Team USA in just about anything. Just look at the Olympics. But the problem with the Olympics, and I think I've said this on the air before, but I'll say it again, the Olympics are 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. That's it. And it takes about a week and a half, 2 weeks for the casual fan to get bought in to a Team USA in a sport that they don't usually follow. So because the World Cup was a month and a half, it gave the casual fans plenty of time to get invested, get involved, get up to speed, and really get into it.
And like you said, we were competitive. That helped.
Always helps.
Yeah, every single time. Wanted to talk briefly, and like I said, next segment we've got Caleb Sailors coming in. At SuperTalk News, supertalk.fm, we have a piece written by Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann talking about school attendance. I recommend go to supertalk.fm, go to latest news in the menu up at the top, and you'll see it. It's right there. It's on the front page today. Talking about absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism, which means they missed more than 10% of the school days in the year. Last year, according to Governor Hosemann, more than 27% of Mississippi students missed more than 10% of the school year. That's a problem, yes. However, as always, this is nuanced, to me anyway. And let's hop in the Wayback Machine. Let me tell you a story. In second grade, your old buddy Dave, it's not a comfortable admission, but it's an admission. I was a sickly child. I was a sickly Victorian child. Wound up in the hospital in second grade like 2 or 3 times with double pneumonia. I mean, it turned out I had massive raging allergies, which did not help anything. But I missed the majority of second grade. The vast majority. Did not get held back because they couldn't figure out a way to do it at that point, because it wasn't just counting heads. What were they doing? They didn't care about the process. They were going by results, and I was passing all the tests because my mom was at home, and I was basically having school in the bed, school at the hospital, whatever. I kept up, did fine. This is another example of what I keep talking about, of going by results instead of process. Is it important that they be in school, in class? Sure. As long as it's serving the end result. And that's to get the kids educated. But now we have tied financing into how many behinds are in the seats every day. We've tied financing into test results at the end of the year. That one you can get a little more behind, a little bit, because at least you're going by a result. I'm gonna be honest. The result is all we should care about. And we really twist ourselves into a knot trying to come up with all these other things that we are convinced this makes the difference. Because you might want to take the phone off the hook, Rhino. You got the phone right there. You might want to take it off the hook. This is just Dave talking, nobody else, not even speaking for Rhino or anyone. We have to stop acting like every kid is an A student if we just put enough time into it. No. I have plenty of friends my age. I'm not picking on school kids. I'm picking on human beings. I got plenty of people my age that I've known my entire life that are as dumb as a box of rocks. They've made a good life for themselves. They've succeeded. They've achieved. They're doing well. I can think of 2 that have a nicer house than I do. But the goal shouldn't be to homogenize things to the point to where everyone is at the same level, because that's impossible. That's an unachievable goal. School attendance is important. Yes. But I think, personally, we have to recognize that that's not the be-all, end-all. Just my thought on it. Because I think we get that twisted sometimes. And you get them off somewhere where nobody can hear them, and get to the point to where they trust you, and talk to a teacher, especially one that's been teaching for a long time, and ask them, is there any difference in kids? Now make sure you've got a few minutes. They're going to talk for a while. But there is. And we keep desperately trying to pretend like there's not. So attendance, yeah, let's get them in there. Unless the kid is sitting in their chair bored out of their mind because they're already ahead of the rest of the class, but we got to rein everything in to keep it for the people that we're forcing to be there that aren't getting much out of it anyway, but we got to keep it at their level and geared to their speed. And then the top achievers, just you're on your own. I don't think that's productive. Well, once again, Rhino, I've caused problems for myself. It's what I do. But I'm just telling it as I see it. And this isn't a criticism of Governor Hoseman's piece. I like it. It's a good piece. Go read it. Good stuff. I just want to make sure that we focus on the right things. He talks about the special session where they changed the youth courts, updated those. Good move. Great action there. But under current law, 12 unlawful absences are a misdemeanor punishable by up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine for the responsible parent. How are their grades? I think that deserves to be part of the conversation. And the general wisdom is, well, if they're not in school, their grades are going to stink. Sure, we'll go with that. When we come back, he no longer wants to be a part of any of this, I'm sure, but Caleb Sailors will join us from SuperTalk News as we continue on Middays in the Element Wealth Studios. Keep it here.
For a flipping good time. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Middays on SuperTalk Mississippi in the Element Wealth Studios live, and joining us now, welcome to the Thunderdome, SuperTalk News' own Caleb Sailors. How you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing way better now that Rhino's bumping me into one of my favorite songs from my childhood, from one of my favorite movies from my childhood, Shrek. And so if it's a Shrek-tastic Friday, I'm happy to be here.
Well, there's no way to go but up, right?
That's right.
I guess that's the way to put it. I will confess, I almost started dancing.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the verge of doing it too, Dave.
It's jaunty, I think is the word that you're looking for. We've got some interesting stories going on in Mississippi right now, don't we?
Yes, and before I get started, though, I do want to offer my most sincere condolences to the family of Lance Tolbert. You know, Lance is a good friend of mine, and we were colleagues on the scoreboard show. We saw each other just about every day, and we even hung out outside of the workplace, too. I mean, Lance was a great friend of mine. He is dearly missed here, and I do want to offer my love and condolences to his family at this time.
You know, Caleb, I feel like it's one of those things. Rhino and I were talking about it at the beginning of the show. This whole week, we've all just kind of been in a daze. We've kind of been in shock over this. I think next week it'll really start to settle in, but it's not going to hit all of us fully until the first week of the high school scoreboard show.
Absolutely, Dave. And for our listening audience and those who do listen to the Scoreboard Show, we will be doing a tribute for Lance when we start the Scoreboard Show. I can say that on good authority. We will be doing a tribute for him.
Oh, yeah, got to. Yeah. Absolutely have to. There's no way to not do that and be able to sleep well at night, I think.
No, absolutely not.
Well, the squawking over the XAI data center has gotten some results, hasn't it?
Yes, and now it appears, now I'm having to say SpaceX AI because SpaceX and XAI merged in February, and so now SpaceX AI is making some movement, right? The company announced this week that it is removing all 69 of the temporary turbines that have been kind of the subject of a lot of disarray in North Mississippi and the DeSoto County area, and they're going to start this process beginning next month or coming up. I mean, August is, right around the corner. I mean, tomorrow. Yeah, right. So they're starting the process of getting rid of these turbines in August and have plans to have them all removed by July of next year. And they're working in collaboration with the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality in doing this as well. But in the interim, SpaceX AI has also announced that it's investing millions of dollars in silencing technologies, noise canceling technologies, so that while they're still using these temporary turbines, they can minimize some of the noise effects that have been the subject of scrutiny. And they're even investing in technology to make them more eco-friendly, to kind of squash some of the concerns about environmental ramifications or even public health ramifications. But while this is going on, the company is also in the process of building a power plant that will be powered by permanent turbines. And so, again, the company is going to invest, according to announcement this week, going to invest in a silencing wall and doing a lot of things to ensure that the people in DeSoto County and the South Haven area aren't just completely losing their minds from a humming noise that goes through their walls.
And it's 24/7,
right.
The noise.
Yes.
That's the thing. But this is what happens. This is the law of unintended consequences, because they put that in. Everybody got upset and said, well, you can't be draining on the power grid. You got to generate your own power. So they put these in to generate their own power. And now that's a problem. So they're adjusting as quickly as they can, it sounds like.
Well, and they're being sued as well. I mean, SpaceX AI is being sued by local residents in DeSoto County, also being sued by the NAACP for different purposes that were both addressed in the investments that the company is making. But still, I mean, right, when you're subject to lawsuits, it doesn't matter that the Department of Justice is trying to have one of these suits dismissed. You still have to take action unless, a judge runs instead of running the risk of a judge intervening and you not having any power.
Yeah, you would much rather be in control of your own destiny in these kind of situations, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. I guess we could boil that story down to improvements are on the way.
That's at least what the company has announced.
We're going to take their word for it until we no longer take their word for it, and then you'll be back and we'll have a whole different conversation.
That's right.
Jody Owens, what's he going to do? Is he going to open a lemonade stand now? What's going to happen with him?
I saw a comment on a different post about the former Hinds County DA that now he can actually focus on his true passion, which is bringing a convention center hotel to the city of Jackson. For those who don't get the reference, that's what got the former DA, the former Jackson Mayor Shokwe Antar-Lavumba, and former City Councilman Aaron Banks into trouble was, their involvement in a corruption scandal where they were dealing with undercover FBI informants posed as Nashville real estate developers. But yeah, that comment. I had to give flowers to that comment. I mean, I guess he can do that now, but what he won't be doing is practicing law in the state of Mississippi. The Mississippi Supreme Court, which holds the exclusive authority to disbar attorneys in Mississippi, has officially disbarred Jody Owens. This comes after the Mississippi Bar reached out saying, hey, he's already pleaded guilty to conspiracy and a federal crime. He can't practice law in Mississippi. And this occurred after the former DA resigned as DA in Hinds County. And he didn't really put up much of a fight. After the bar sought to disbar him, he said, hey, look, you can have my legal license. I surrender it. But this disbarring now is permanent. It's not like he can practice law again in 3 years. I mean, he can no longer practice law in the state of Mississippi. And so now, what's he going to do, Dave? I don't know. Maybe that convention center hotel hotel project could be enticing after all. A side note here is that the Mississippi Bar has also reached out to the Supreme Court to disbar the former mayor as well. And it doesn't seem like former Mayor Lumumba is giving up as easily as Jody Owens did. He hasn't voluntarily surrendered his legal license at all, but I would be shocked if he didn't get disbarred.
Well, that's the question I was about to ask. I don't see how they can come down, just didn't even have much debate from what I understand.
Yeah.
No, Jody Owens, you're done. You feel like it's going to be a similar process with former Mayor Lumumba as well, because it's all part of the same basket.
Right. And another note there, too, is all three that are involved in this case, in the specific indictment, Lumumba, Owens, and Banks, are set to be sentenced on October 15th, and they face up to 5 years in prison, fines, and then some time on probation, too. Not sure what they'll get, but that's what they're facing right now. And so, yeah, I mean, there really isn't much of a debate. You pleaded guilty to conspiracy, and so, I mean, I guess if 1 + 1 = 2, I guess the Supreme Court's options right now are very limited.
The transitive property of public fraud.
Right.
Yeah, 1 + 1 = 2. I like that. That's pretty good. We're bringing math into politics. That's always a dangerous idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry for doing that.
Now, I mentioned earlier in the show, just mentioned it very briefly, that they've made some arrests in the Centerville mass shooting. One of them was in, I think, Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah. That is crazy because, we've got this Big Ten versus SEC feud, and Columbus is where Ohio State University is. So now we're bringing the Big Ten feud into the SEC with a mass shooting. I mean, this is crazy. But yes, one of the arrests was made in Columbus, Ohio, and then 4 of the others were made in Louisiana in connection with a Centerville mass shooting on the 4th of July. Now, this shooting left 2 people dead and injured 7. It's a really big deal because Centerville is not a largely populated Mississippi city. And so when you have 9 people that are shot in one event, that's a very big deal, and it's cause for concern. And the city of Centerville is still under a curfew. I think that curfew will be in effect. I'm not sure how long. The mayor didn't really give a timetable for how long the curfew will be in effect. And they're taking drastic measures to ensure that, hey, we can't have things like this happening. But it is good to see that, the U.S. Marshals and other law enforcement agencies have, collaborated with local law enforcement in Mississippi to ensure that people that were wanted in this case were brought to justice. And it's kind of a breath of fresh air, too, to see people being handcuffed in this case, too. And it's not one of those situations where you have a mass shooting, no one says anything, no one talks to police, and then no arrests are made and no justice is served.
This is a great example, too, I think, of something that we tend to gloss over. And that's the fact that local crime, Mississippi crime, has less connection to Mississippians than you think sometimes, because all of these arrests were outside the state, all 5 of them.
And if these people are committing crimes in Mississippi, they're going to commit crimes elsewhere, too. I mean, that's just, again, we're bringing math to crime now. 1 + 1 = 2.
Will you stop with them? I left my calculator at home, man.
You got one on your phone, Dave. Come on now.
Yeah, but I'm using that to read an email. I can't. You're asking me to multitask on a Friday. That is never an advisable course of action.
Well, I apologize.
No, you don't. You don't care. You want to stick around through the break?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll continue talking with Caleb Sailors, and I'm sure he's going to up the ante to multiplication before we're done here in the Element Well Studios on Middays. Keep it here.
From the
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Let's go.
Tall and she grew up right with them Indiana boys on an Indiana night.
I love Tom Petty, and he's always fascinated me because he's ugly and got a weird voice and one of the biggest music stars of all time. You wouldn't expect that, but that's how life works sometimes. Welcome back, Middays in the Element Well Studios. Dave Hughes here. Caleb Sailors from SuperTalk News joining us because a lot of stuff going on. Ole Miss, this is an interesting case with Ole Miss. You don't hear very often about a school going after football players. This isn't normal.
We're kind of at ground zero for this, Dave. I know there was potential for this happening at Washington with quarterback Damon Williams, and he hit the transfer portal, though he had signed a revenue sharing agreement with Washington. Again, for our listening audience, there's a difference between NIL deals with a third party and a revenue sharing deal with the university, because the NIL deal, there's kind of debate on how legally binding that is. The revenue sharing deal is legally binding. I mean, you are signing a contract with a university that has a buyout clause in it. And I know Ole Miss has a very good and robust law school, and they have a lot of legal minds looking at these documents. So they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's here. So back to Washington, Damon Williams entered the portal, or was entertaining the portal, and was possibly going to go to LSU to be Lane Kiffin's quarterback. Well, Washington said, hey, buddy, if you do that, we're going to sue you. And so he said, yeah, not worth it. So he stayed at Washington. This is probably the first case where you had two athletes sign a revenue sharing agreement. The court documents have shown where Ole Miss and the two athletes, this is Prince William Amiellen, who was an edge rusher for the Rebels last year, and Devin Harper, who's an offensive tackle who came to Ole Miss out of high school. Well, they signed the agreement. Right, Prince Wills was Ole Miss is seeking $550,000 from Prince William Amiellen, seeking $400,000 from Devin Harper. Signed the agreement. Ole Miss, the social media department, makes graphics announcing, hey, these players are returning. You know, they're coming back to be part of Pete Golding's first year as head coach in Oxford. And then next thing you know, the players a couple weeks later say, nah, we're going to go hit the transfer portal while the window was still open, and we're going to go play for Lane Kiffin. And this is less about where they went to play and more about you have a buyout clause in your contract. You got to pay the money. And so Ole Miss has not recouped these funds. Now, Ole Miss officials claim that they posted receipts too. I mean, Ole Miss was very diligent. And hey, at Thursday, January 19th at 10:07 a.m., we contacted, this is a thorough account. Ole Miss reached out to both players on multiple occasions about payment, didn't get a response, even reached out to LSU and saying, hey, LSU, you can pay this money on these players' behalf. Now, I can understand why LSU wouldn't, because it would count against LSU's revenue sharing cap for next year. And so LSU says, yeah, no, we're not a party in this agreement. And so this is between you and the two players. And so now Ole Miss's last option is, okay, well, we don't have the money that we are entitled to through the revenue sharing contract. We got to take you to court. And so the university has filed suit against both former football players in the Lafayette County Circuit Court. And so now we'll see where this goes.
You have to wonder if, to a certain extent, this isn't players signing agreements and not really fully understanding what they are agreeing to. It's kind of what it feels like.
They have agents. That's the thing, too. These players have agents. I mean, they're not. It's not like, 19-year-old Timmy is just wandering into the big evil corporate man's office who has full intentions of messing him over. I mean, Ole Miss was paying these guys. Ole Miss had paid these guys the season prior. I mean, they had gotten checks from Ole Miss, or had gotten checks from a third-party NIL source that had been cleared through a clearinghouse. I mean, these guys had been paid before, so it's not like a new thing. They also have agents. They have representation, too, and I don't think any good agent with a law background would say, hey, yeah, you should sign this and then break the contract. They're not going to do anything. Now, my presumption here, this is my presumption, Dave, this is not fact. I mean, this could be fact, but this is my presumption, is that the two players transferred to LSU under the preconceived notion that LSU would take care of them. I've heard that LSU say, hey, don't worry about that. We got that covered. We'll take care of that. But now when it comes to actually writing the check, and looking at revenue sharing cap for next year, looking at how much it's going to cost to build a roster next year, because college football is very expensive. It's a very expensive game now. And how much money Lane Kiffin likes to spend on his rosters. LSU is probably thinking, guys, y'all got to figure that out. That's not on us. And maybe hoping that a judge will sympathize with the student athletes rather than the institution. And so that's kind of where we are there. But yeah, Ole Miss is kind of the first to actually take these players to court, saying, hey, no, we've honored our end of the agreement. You signed this. You put your name on this paper. You owe us the money. And it's $950,000 total. Again, $550,000 from Prince William Amiel and $400,000 from Devin Harper. And yeah, Ole Miss, again, has not gotten the money back. So some have suggested that this might get settled. I don't think Ole Miss is willing to settle here. I don't think Ole Miss is willing to accept anything less than what it claims it's entitled to through the lawsuits.
Well, and the thing here is, you mentioned in there about possibly a presumption of the judge taking pity on the poor college football players and siding with them. This is a legally binding contract. I'm not sure we want to open the can of worms where we say, well, it's a contract and all these people were involved and it's completely legal, but, oh, come on, I like this guy, so we're not going to do it. That's not the way the law works.
And I also believe that in both of these contracts that there's a clause where if there is a legal dispute, they have to be settled in the state of Mississippi, too. And so we're not getting Louisiana law here. We're getting Mississippi law. And I'm not accusing any judges of, having any biases or personal biases. I think they will review these cases very fairly. I mean, they did take an oath to uphold the rule of law. But again, if something's legally binding, it's cut and dry. It's black and white. So we'll see how this is reviewed. I know some have suggested that the money is legally binding only as it relates to the player's NIL value. And so I don't know how that works, because Ole Miss has a specific number in the contract, in both contracts. And the players agree that they would pay that specific number if they transferred to another institution within 90 days of signing that contract. So I'm not sure how that would work. And so, again, though, we are kind of, again, like I said, ground zero is the appropriate term here. I mean, we're at the forefront of learning about how this is going to play out in courts across the nation, because I think as Ole Miss case goes, there might be other cases across the country that go either the same way, or where you have institutions looking to crack down on players not fulfilling their end of the deal. Or if the players get a big victory here, we could see where players can just do whatever.
Well, let me just say, and you ask any attorney, you ask any judge, if there's one thing they love, it's setting a precedent, he said sarcastically. So everybody's just kind of, oh, man, okay, well, let's do it.
Yeah. But you think about it, though, Dave, like we've all signed contracts at some point or another. If I sign a contract here with SuperTalk Mississippi, and then tomorrow I'm working for another outlet, whatever I signed in my contract, I owe SuperTalk Mississippi that, or I'm subject to legal ramifications there. I mean, it's cut and dry. These student athletes have demanded to be paid, rightfully so. They're the ones that put the product on the field. They deserve compensation. That's fine. I mean, if you want to get treated like a pro in the NFL, if you sign a legally binding contract with the Cleveland Browns and then you just don't show up to OTAs, you don't show up to practice, guess what? That organization can fine you, and you are legally obligated to pay that fine. And so I think we see where, college athletes have, wanted to be treated like pros, and again, justifiably so to an extent. I have no problem with that. But now, well, there's a part of your end that you have to uphold, and we're going to see how that plays out in court.
It's actually worse than that. It would be like you sign with the Cleveland Browns, you sign your contract, you get your signing bonus, you're ready to go, and then as we're coming up onto camp time, you go, you know what, I'm going to the Bills camp, actually. I'm going to be over there. Okay, bye, guys.
Yeah. Josh Allen throws the ball pretty well. I want to be his wide receiver now, so I'm going to go play for the Bills. Now, it's just that, I mean, if you do that, which of course there are plenty of rules preventing that in the NFL, and the contracts are written so meticulously to prevent any of that from happening anyway. But yeah, if something like that were to happen, that athlete would owe that franchise every bit of money he was given, or everything that he agreed to in the buyout clause.
Yes, including if he had to give back all the money and pay them an extra $1 million for breaking the contract, he'd have to pay it. He'd have to write the check.
Them's the rules, as they say.
Yes. You pays your money, you takes your chances, and in this particular case, I suspect if we were gonna lay money down on it, I would bet that these two guys are gonna lose the case.
Yeah, I think this will be a win for Ole Miss as well.
Yeah, as I believe it should be. Looking at the facts of the case, not rumor, not speculation, the actual facts. Caleb Sailors, always enjoy talking to you, man.
Thank you for having me, Dave. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, anytime. You know you are always welcome. There have been times before I've been in the big chair and I've just said, oh, come on over here. Yeah. Nothing was scheduled. He just walks in because there's something to talk about. Keep up the good work. You do a fantastic job for us.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
We continue in the Element Wealth Studios on your Friday morning edition for the next 12 minutes of Middays here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Keep it here.
Just where our lives are going
to. Polyup of Mississippi. Are
we going to do this?
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Can't concentrate on a preacher preaching. My attention span done turned off. I'm honed in on that angel singing up there in the choir loft. She's got her daddy's money, her mama's good looks, more laughs than a stack of comic books. A wild imagination, a college education, add it all up, it's a deadly combination. She's a good bass fisher, a dynamite kisser, country as a turnip green.
I'm sorry, I'm getting lost and amusing myself in some of the stupidity that you find when you go looking for things to make sure that you cover. Got some we're going to get into later, but right now we have a national crisis. We have a national emergency we have got to deal with. And Randy, that works with us here in Southwest Mississippi at SuperTalk, sent me this morning because he knew it would be of great importance to me. You and I have been hanging out for a long time. You know the importance of Little Debbie's to me. This is a big part of my life. Had some Little Debbie's before we came on the air. Zebra cakes. Those big donuts. Have you had the new big donuts that they have right now?
No.
They're like a donut stick, except they're giant and they're donut shaped. And my household has developed a severe addiction to those. And the problem is you can't find them everywhere. So every so often we have to go on like a safari expedition to find them. And when we do, we buy like 6 boxes because we got them in front of us. We got to stock up right now. So he sends me this story, and the headline is, Little Debbie snack fraud investigation leads to arrest of West Virginia man. We have Little Debbie's fraud now. This is where we're at. Apparently, this guy was an independent distributor of Little Debbie's. Obviously, there is not a strict vetting process to be allowed to drive around with a truck full of Little Debbie's, which gives me hope for my retirement. Pennsylvania. They investigated him, and what he was doing, he was marking down that he had Little Debbie's that he delivered to various places, but he didn't have them and he didn't deliver them, but he was collecting the money for them. So we have someone here who was pretending to give people Little Debbie's that didn't. I don't know what the situation is with the death penalty in Pennsylvania, but I feel this rises to that occasion. I realize I have some personal involvement. I'm fully aware of that. But he forged employee signatures that they signed for it on the fake invoices that he created, and then he turned them in and he got his money from Little Debbie's. Maybe why we can't find the donuts. I recommend I haven't seen them individually packaged, by the way, Rhino. I think you have to find a box of them where there's always a display in the grocery store where they have all the various Little Debbies, usually like an end cap. And you have to find a box there. Highly recommend it. If you haven't tried one, next time you're in the store, if you see some, grab a box. It's a couple of bucks. Take it home. And how are you with sugar rushes? I feel like I need to ask that first. Because it is a round cake of compressed sugar with a hole in the middle. That's all it is. And I'm fine with that. I recognize that. I have no problem with that. Heaven knows I need the energy. So anyway, be on the lookout for fraudulent Little Debbie's transactions. What has happened to this planet?
Well, the sad thing is it's even worse than that, because while he was forging invoices for Little Debbie's that never made it to convenience stores or grocery stores, he was keeping the stock of them and going to flea markets and selling them.
Is there such a thing as a double death penalty? Can he get the death penalty and then we revive him real quick and do it again? I mean, there are some crimes that are beyond all reason. See, that also makes me question another part of his character, because if I've got a truck full of Little Debbies that are now unaccounted for and nobody's looking for, I'm taking them home. I'm going to be in a diabetic coma inside of 24 hours. So he was getting paid for delivering them to a store that never got them and then selling them on top of that.
How bad do you have to feel if you bought the bootleg Little Debbie's at the flea market?
Why did it not occur to you? You look up and there's a guy with a table full of Little Debbies. That's not what you normally see at a flea market. You would think questions would come up.
Well, you see, this is a rare 2007 Christmas tree cake.
Still fresh as the day it was made.
Mint in package.
It's an unopened box. There's just a little bit of damage to the corners of the box from shipping and whatnot, but aside from that, it's not a 10.0 on the grading scale, but it's solid 9.4, 9.5. So at that point, you sell the box of Christmas tree cakes for, $30. This scam has layers. All right, we've got news from Fox News, SuperTalk Mississippi News, and then Marie Sanderson joins us next, GOP strategist. Well, there's nothing going on with the GOP. I don't know what we'll find to talk about, but I'm sure we'll dig something up that rhymes with Fauci. We'll talk about that right after this on Middays in the Element Wealth Studios.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 of Middays in the Element Wealth Studios on SuperTalk Mississippi. Dave Hughes here, and we are joined now by the former policy director for the Republican Governors Association and a GOP strategist, somebody who knows what's going on in Washington, and that's putting it mildly. Marie Sanderson, how you doing this morning?
Dave, I'm great. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. And, I would usually start with some opener along the lines of it's a bit more turbulent than usual in politics, but that just no longer seems to apply. Every day is turbulent these days, isn't it?
That's well said, Dave. I completely agree with that statement.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I think we have to start with the big headline story that we've been dealing with for the past several days, which is the testimony of Anthony Fauci before the Homeland Security Committee. What was accomplished there, do you think?
I think the senators, Senator Rand Paul, Senator Hawley, and others were able to demonstrate a different side of Dr. Fauci than those who were supportive of his positions have successfully been able to portray in the media. They were able to ask questions, which were obviously not answered because Dr. Fauci chose not to answer these questions with his lawyers lined up next to him. But they were able to establish some things that are questionable. Look, COVID was a very trying time for all of us. We all have our stories of people who were sick, who may have passed away. Thankfully, our governor opened up Mississippi as quickly as he could, along with several Republican states. But there are a lot of people who suffered economically. And so the lines of questioning, there was one, I was not at the hearing, although I was in D.C. There was one from Senator Hawley about the awards that Dr. Fauci had his staff apply for in his name using taxpayer dollars and federal staff that had cash prizes. That's the type of stuff that really upsets me. I think you have moms and dads who may give him a pass on maybe it was uncertain about how to handle the virus in the beginning as far as social distancing. But there's a lot of frustration about how intelligence evolved and the lack of transparency that he provided and the abuse of perhaps the office.
Well, I think it was a political masterstroke that Senator Paul released the diary that Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had found right before this hearing, because, boy, that really changed the context and the entire temperature in the room, didn't it?
It absolutely did. I think it's a lesson for all of us to be careful what you put in writing, even if it's your diary. So it might still see the light of day. But yeah, I mean, look, you got to see the way he viewed himself, his interactions, what, he thought was good and how he was benefiting. He probably never thought that anyone would ever read that. And so I think Senator Paul, message received by giving those who are watching the hearing kind of a glimpse into what he had been studying about Dr. Fauci prior to the hearing.
I think that lesson that you're talking about there goes a little bit deeper, because RFK Jr. did reveal, might have been yesterday or the day before, revealed how he found that, because he had been keeping that journal and writing all of that and wanted to use it to write a book, allegedly. So he took the entire thing on his government computer with his government email account and emailed it to himself, so he'd have a copy of it before he left. And so, of course, that was found, and it was government property at that point, so it was released. We have to put a lot more thought into what we're doing, especially when it comes to political matters, than I think sometimes we do.
That's exactly right. If you work for the taxpayer, then what you do on the taxpayer dime is property of the government and property of the people. There's certainly rules and regulations that govern what can be released, but that's exactly right. And the fact that he, being a senior official, did not understand that or did not contemplate that prior to sending that email is a bit shocking.
Well, I would say that the contents of that journal or diary or whatever you want to call it kind of give the impression that he maybe thought he was above all of those kind of considerations. He had a little, no, not a little, he had a massive streak of narcissism, it seemed like, was going through his daily life and his mindset. That's what it reads like to me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that approach. I mean, look, a lot of people who've been in positions for a long time in government forget, again, that they, work for the taxpayer. And so I don't disagree with you there.
Let's shift topics just a little bit. I mean, it would be fun to use Dr. Fauci as a piñata for the next few minutes, but let's move on to a different topic here, which is the conflict going on in Iran. As a GOP strategist, give me your approach and your opinion on what's happening, where we're at, and where you think we're headed.
Well, look, I think the president and his advisors would like to bring this war to an end. I think that they are doing what they can to bring others in the region, in the world, to help do that. I think they understand the importance of opening up trade. And I believe that they're going to do everything they can to bring this to closure. It's clearly not a popular war. We know there are a lot of public polls that demonstrate that Americans want to be out of this. And by the way, that's bipartisan. It's not just Democrats. There are Republicans who want us to get out of Iran as soon as possible. And so it is a conflict that the president spends a lot of time with Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth trying to bring to a closure. But these things are challenging, right? I'm not a foreign policy expert. But this is a difficult regime. It's different than Venezuela. Venezuela was a very efficient, successful mission. And I think there's some lessons learned from Iran that he and his advisors are probably taking into consideration as they try and close this.
Well, foreign policy aside, we still have this going on, and, I don't think it's going to end today, no matter what anybody might want. We are coming up on the midterms. How do you handle this as a GOP candidate going into the midterms with, as you just pointed out, a very unpopular war going on? How do you deal with that on the campaign trail?
Well, the most important issue is affordability. And so our Republican candidates need to talk about what they're doing to bring costs down, that they understand the struggles that American people have, that they understand the price of gas is important, the price of milk. The Republicans passed the Big Beautiful Bill last year that had a lot of policies in place that help families. And so they need to be talking about that. The senators have been quoted that we've not done enough to educate. Leader Scalise in the House has done the same thing, saying we need to talk more and more about this. And so I think what you're seeing is members of Congress who, as you know, run every 2 years and are in cycle are trying to get home. They're home now. The Senate will hope to get out next week and really start talking to the voters in their districts about the things they've accomplished. In addition, they hope not to take any more difficult votes, and they hope the president wraps the war on Iran as soon as possible. All of those things will help GOP candidates and states move through an election period that is often hard. The president's party usually has a more difficult time in midterms, and so this is no different. But there are definitely some issues that we have to talk about, like affordability, and own them as Republicans and not let the Democrats take that narrative.
How do you deal with it, though, when you're on the campaign trail in either party, but we're talking about Republicans here, when you're on the campaign trail and you start talking about affordability, as you say, and people come up to you and go, well, yeah, but I'm broke. Explain this. How are you going to fix this? That's not an easy answer, is it?
It's a hard answer, and it's different per state, per district about the things that are important to people. It might be job related. It might be tax related. An answer that a different elected official might say. It might be how they're working with the president to help with a tariff. It might be how they've protected a local industry, but from a foreign country who might be dumping product in their states. There are all sorts of ways that someone can answer a question based on individual voters' issues that might matter to them. But we certainly just macro level, the price of gas, if that starts to go down, those are bellwether issues that people track, and that will help as we approach November.
Talking with Marie Sanderson, can you stick around through the break? Do you have time?
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Fantastic. We'll continue talking with her on this Friday morning in the Element Wealth Studios on Middays, SuperTalk Mississippi. Keep it here.
Hello. Attention, adoring fans.
It's time for Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Middays in the Element Well studios. Dave Hughes here talking with Marie Sanderson, GOP strategist. How often do you have to take something for a headache? I would suspect it's frequently.
For me, probably every other day.
Yeah, that's actually better than I expected the answer to be, because it's really hard to hit a moving target, and it seems like for a GOP strategist, the target shifts every hour, not just every day, because of so much going on. How do you deal with that as a candidate and as yourself as well?
Well, you have to understand what motivates voters, and the best way to do that is to ask questions. And obviously, we've talked about pollsters, but the best way to do that is to talk to constituents. So elected officials, they hear from other elected officials, and they hear from their constituents about issues that are important. But again, the data tells us that, I'll say it again, affordability is what people want to hear from their elected officials that they're addressing. And so you have to keep your eye on the ball. We know that the war in Iran is something that people are very upset about. So you keep your eye on the ball and you figure out how to address that, and you make yourself accessible. There are also ways to talk about it that matter, that reach voters. And if you have something that you've done, you say it again and again and again, because it does take multiple efforts and to repeat so voters understand and hear what you're saying.
I spent a lot of time in my career in music radio, and the golden rule when we would get new music in, now I'm going way back, we're talking 80s and 90s here, when you would get new music in, before you decided what songs to add, you listened to it 3 times, because the first time you're not really hearing it. Second time, a little bit. By the third time, you're actually getting a feel for what it is. Same thing applies to this when you're addressing voters. First time you say it, they're not listening. Even if they are paying attention, they don't really absorb it. Same thing applies. But that does bring a question up, because you keep mentioning affordability, which is obviously, I would say probably, in my opinion, the leading issue for most people. But it's always been the leading issue for most people. Why do we have to keep stressing to candidates that affordability, kitchen table politics, is the most important thing? And it just about always is, isn't it?
Well, economic issues are always really important, and the GOP usually leads on economic issues. The difference is this time the affordability argument has more of a populist angle to it. It's not just about the economy. It's not about stock prices. It's not about, taxes, things like that have largely been, questions you ask. How do you feel about the direction your country is going? How do you feel about the direction of the economy? There are times when people say, I feel really good about it, and that benefits whoever's in the White House. But typically, if you follow up and say, who do you trust more to manage the economy, a generic Republican or Democrat, Republicans usually lead on that issue. And so at times, when the economy is the number one issue that voters care about, Republicans do generally really well. That was the case in 2024. Economy was the number one issue, and they trusted President Trump and Republicans to lead on that issue. The challenge is we're not necessarily seeing prices decrease. Largely has to do with the war in Iran. I'm not an economist, but I do believe that has a lot to do with why we're seeing pocketbook issues such as the price of gas and groceries go up. Some people blame tariffs. There's good and bad with tariffs, right? I said that in the last segment. In some cases, tariffs are very good. They protect domestic industries from foreign industries. They're allowing us to bring food supply, steel, things that we need in the U.S. to make locally critical minerals. Those are all good things. You can also say, or I would say Democrats also argue that tariffs have caused certain things to rise in price. And so that is where we're seeing this argument change in the affordability lane of economic security. It's a populism. It's a how is it impacting the pocketbook, which is different than some of the economic themes we've seen in past elections.
Well, and I have to wonder, and you are the perfect person to ask this. if you are talking to your constituents, and you know, because you've been asking questions, you've been getting comments, you've been talking to other candidates about what they're hearing, and you know that the people are not happy with where they're at economically, is there political value headed into a midterm to go talk to them and go, you know what, you're right, it stinks right now, but we're going to fix it, and here's how, instead of just trying to gloss over it? Is that a viable course of action for a candidate to take?
Well, it absolutely matters how you talk about it. And so that's why each candidate has to understand the issues to the electorate where they're running. If they're in South Mississippi, you talk to the voters in South Mississippi with the language and the issues they care about. That's what's most important. So again, I would say that candidates matter is my second answer to that. Where you have candidates that are good candidates and can communicate and are well liked, then it's easier to get that message across the table. So what will happen as we move towards the midterms and some of these primaries finish across the country, if we have candidates that are elected that communicate well on behalf of the GOP, that'll make it easier come election time. There's a primary on Tuesday in Michigan that's very, very important for the control of the Senate. If the more progressive Democrat wins, that is a good thing for Republicans. That means that we have a greater chance to win the Michigan Senate race. If the more moderate candidate wins in that race, that makes it more of a toss-up for the GOP, and we'll have to spend more money to try and keep that seat. The Senate will come down to 4 or 5 states. It will be very close. And as you know, the control of the Senate will really matter. As a lot of pundits have said, it's likely that the Republicans will lose the House. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah, well, we'll see. And we're not really going to know until the cards are dealt in November how this is going to turn out. But I agree with you that it's good in the primaries to see the progressive wins that we're seeing. It's a little disturbing that we're starting to see progressives win general elections in various state elections around the country. How do we combat that, or do we even combat that? Do we just move on and use that as a bad example of what you don't want to have happen here?
No, I think that's a great point, Dave. We are seeing that progressives are winning these Democrat primaries, and depending on the election, if they win and they are members of Congress and they're senators, that has huge consequences for the way our country is governed. We've talked on your show and other SuperTalk shows in the past about the growing views of socialism on the Democrat side of the aisle, communism. That is very, very, very concerning. And it's becoming a very common way to talk about policy on the Democrat side of the aisle. We should be very, very worried. It is our job to educate young people and voters in both parties that socialism is not the answer to the problems we have in the United States. And if more and more of those candidates win and this becomes normalized, we have a huge problem, not only in 2027, but beyond, with the growing, infatuation with socialism.
And it just seems to be in some ways picking up steam. Everybody has paid attention to Mamdani's win as mayor in New York City, because huge city, one of the biggest in the country. But you see other things, governorships and everything else around the country starting to go to, and really is progressive the right term anymore? Can we just start calling them socialists? They're calling themselves socialists. So do we just start using that term to kind of reinforce what we're dealing with here?
I think politically you must. And I think you'll see Republican candidates who are running against these types of candidates. They will have to draw a line in the sand about the type of candidate they're running against and the type of views they have, and remind people we've had this battle in the U.S. before. You can point to countries in other parts of the world that are communist, who have socialist policies. That's not what we want in America, and we're going to have to educate and draw a line in the sand and speak plainly about what that means.
Well, to me, it's the difference between being stupid and having bad ideas or being self-destructive. And they seem to be on the left moving more in the direction of self-destructive, all in service of telling people, oh, I'm going to give you stuff. It's going to be great. It's never great. We've seen this play out over and over. That's the message we need to pound. It is.
And it's a shame that some of the America 250 events had the military, and it was so heartwarming to see these gentlemen. But again, that generation is aging. We've got to tell that story. We've got to make sure that people don't forget why we fought so hard and why we are a nation that is free and believes in capitalism.
Marie Sanderson, GOP Strategist, I have enjoyed it. I don't want to tie up any more of your day, but keep up the good work. They have good bulk deals at some of the big box stores on headache remedies, so you can just go stock up and be ready for now through the end of the year.
I look forward to it, and I'm going to go get those Twinkies you talked about in the earlier segment.
The donuts, the Little Debbie's donuts. Go get some.
The donuts,
Yes.
not the Twinkies. Will do.
Yes,
Thanks,
the
Dave.
donut. Anytime. Always enjoy talking with Marie. We will continue on this Friday morning right after this.
From the Seabrook.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
Now, on to the real part.
Dynamite! On SuperTalk Mississippi.
We return in the Element Wealth Studios for the final half hour on this Friday morning of Middays. Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006. Element Wealth can help you out with, well, everything involving your wealth. That's right there in the name. Don't forget, we talked about Sports Talk being in Laurel today, down at the Laurel Sportsplex for the Diamond Youth Baseball World Series. They're also on the road next week, starting Tuesday. It's the first stop in the Not Fall Camp Tour. And they're starting off, you know, I thought you saved the best for last, but apparently they're doing the best first. They're going to be in Hattiesburg at Sully's. Going to have a lot of giveaways focusing on college football. We're very close to the start of college football, closer than you think. Remember, tomorrow is August. It's brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Join Sports Talk at Sully's next Tuesday. And then, of course, they'll be making stops in Starkville and Oxford as well before the season kicks off. Yeah, I want to get into the whole AI thing for a minute. We had Caleb in here earlier talking about how XAI, well, SpaceX AI, is removing the temporary turbines, and they're doing some noise cancellation thing. I think we're focusing on the wrong potential problem with AI, Rhino, and let me explain what I'm talking about. It's twofold to me. Number one, this is being pushed to a ridiculous level, trying to make it a thing, but people still don't really understand it. There is a novel, crime novel, it had been sold 6- and 7-figure deals in the U.S. and the U.K. from a publisher to publish this book. They have now canceled the contracts and backed out because they suspect he may possibly have used AI to write some or all of it. So we are now at the part of this process where suspicion is as good as doing it. That works well in the long run, doesn't it? That's a good business plan. But that's where we're at. I've talked to people that firmly believe that everything they see and hear is AI unless proven otherwise, but you can't. You can't prove you did. You can't prove you didn't. The AI detectors don't work. Don't fool yourself. I don't care if you think you found that special one. Somebody took one of the leading AI detectors and fed the first page of Moby Dick into it and said it was 75% certain it was written with AI. I'm pretty sure Melville did not have a MacBook. So we all know that didn't happen. But it'll tell you that. It's not as detectable as you think. Now, bad AI, bad use of AI, yeah, sure. You can pick that up pretty quick. Just like bad writing, you can pick it up pretty quick, but it's not as easy to tell as you think. That is getting in the way of wider scale adoption, which leads me to the big problem with AI. It's been talked about, the AI bubble. Do you realize over half of GDP growth in the U.S. last year was the AI industry? All the construction going on, all the data centers, all the new rollouts, everything else. So over half of the growth in the GDP came from the AI industry, and they're losing money faster than you can count. Last year, they spent $1.4 trillion, all of the AI companies added together. Anthropic, OpenAI, XAI, all of them. They spent $1.4 trillion and brought in half that much in revenue. Not profit, revenue. Right now, if I told you I had a business plan, this is a great idea. We're going to sell spoiled fish. We're going to sell it. We're going to put it out. We're going to put a good face on it. Everybody's going to be excited about it, and we know they're going to adopt this. We know they're going to. There is going to be a wave of spoiled fish fever that covers the country. Everybody is going to want their piece of it. Now, the problem is we're buying these fish for $10 a piece, and we're only going to sell them for $5 a piece. But, you know, we may lose money on every sale, but we'll make up for it with volume, right? And a frenzy begins, not amongst the customers necessarily, but amongst the other companies and the stock market. And everybody goes insane over this. Nobody's looking at the books. Am I missing something? Rhino, where are we getting such excitement for the economic possibilities of AI? It's not there in the numbers, is it?
No, not at the current timetable we're looking at, but I think a lot of the investment is purely speculation on the future of AI, and they want to be in on the ground level for prestige or for a leg up on any competition that gets in later. Because AI can go down one of two paths. It can go down the path of early 90s virtual reality, where for some reason the technology's not there, but the idea is great and can be implemented in the future. Or it's going to go down the path of the internet in general, where you think of the internet nowadays, you think of connectivity, you think of apps, you think of devices automatically connecting, not having to think about it. You don't think of the internet in the same way you did in, say, the 90s or the 2000s, where you had a dedicated company you paid money to connect to it and get the robot noises, and then you had Prodigy or AOL, or like you had different things that you associated with the internet that nowadays you don't even think about when you hear the word internet. So they're likely investing for the speculative future of, well, AI in 5, 10, 15, 20 years is not going to be the same AI we're thinking about today. It's not going to be the computer-generated images or the AI movies or all of the the flyers you see on the face page all the time that are just blatantly AI. We won't even think about that when you hear the term AI 10, 15, 20 years down the road, the same way we don't think about AOL when you hear the internet nowadays.
The problem is, though, to me, and again, you know this, Rhino, we've talked about it. I'm a huge AI fan. I love it. But then I'm a gadget guy. Always have been. Love it. But I'm just not sure, and you're right. I think you're exactly right in your assessment. They're looking at 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Can you keep losing $500 billion a year every year for a couple of decades to get there? Sooner or later, the money runs out, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a pretty tough scale to use because, I mean, look at Amazon, for example. Amazon, I think it was up until COVID, lost a ton of money on shipping stuff directly to your door and made up for it with other ways. The problem is putting all this money into AI, there's not another way to recoup the cost like Amazon had with offering their web services to recoup the cost for losing money on shipping it to your door in a day and a half.
No, exactly. And the problem is They are putting insane valuations on what they think ads are going to be worth in AI. I don't think that's the hook you want to hang your hat on here. So what are you going to do? Are the subscriptions going to go through the roof, which means the adaption is going to drop amongst people who don't want to pay that much for this? We've already got people that wouldn't pay a penny for it now because they have no value in their day-to-day life from it. Will it get there? Eventually. Maybe, if the whole thing doesn't implode like a black hole. That's what I'm worried about. And if it does, it's going to take the economy down with it at this point. We have the economy so tied into the AI boom, speculation, bubble, whatever you want to call it, that, well, if we wake up tomorrow, we wake up Monday, and we find out that OpenAI and Anthropic have closed down. They've shut the doors. We can't do this anymore. We're out of money. We don't know how we're going to fix this, and it goes away. XAI does something similar. Then what? Economy-wise, the stock market, you think you've seen a stock market crash. You'll see one then. And everything will be in the biggest mess you've seen in a while. I don't think we're paying enough attention to that part of this. This is a very tiny needle we're trying to thread between the overall economy and the success 10, 20 years down the road of a fledgling industry that we still don't quite know if it's going to take off the way they want it to commercially. Just remember, Facebook got renamed Meta because Mark Zuckerberg was convinced that you wanted to spend your workday with no legs floating in a virtual office and conducting business. Yeah, that worked out great.
Well, you got to remember the no legs part was because they were terrified of Rule 34.
Yeah, like it wasn't going to happen anyway. Come on. Welcome to the internet. There are snacks in the break room. I wouldn't eat them. We don't know who bought them. Final segment of Middays on a Friday morning, on the way next on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Closing time. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.
When it comes to metal roof,
you know what that means.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Shoulder and the touch of the world that is older. I turn the switch and check the number. I leave it on when in bed I slumber. I hear the rhythm.
Welcome back. Final segment. Just a few little silly things to clear up. We'll lead with the big one. 85-year-old Donna Mills of Knots Landing fame has started an OnlyFans because why not? Whatever. So if you're looking to put a new wrinkle in your leisure time, I'm sure you can find the link somewhere. I haven't gone to look because, yeah.
Some things you can't unsee.
Yes, you do. Why? And the crazy thing is, people will pay money for it. Great-grandma. I don't know if she is, but she's old enough to be. She's 85. Have you seen, I can't get out of here without talking about this. Have you seen the new robot that they have announced, company in California is developing, called the Satirus robot?
You mean the demon bot?
Yes, the demon bot. To properly describe this thing, it's about 6 feet tall. It's got the body, it's a centaur. It's got the body of a horse, the rear end of a horse, the front torso of a person with a goat's head with big giant horns on it, glowing eyes, and the head is a goat's head. They're saying they're going to use this to, in part, perform rescue operations. Now I ask you, if there has been some big calamity, a forest fire, a tornado, a hurricane, an earthquake, whatever, and you're trapped and you're scared to death And all of a sudden you hear this rumbling and things come through. And the rocks start shifting and you go, oh, I'm getting rescued. And then it opens up and then the Demon Bot 3000 steps into view with one hand that is a chainsaw, because that's an attachment you can put on it as a full running chainsaw to help cut through debris. Are you going to be comforted?
I'm starting with green tips and going up from there.
Look, I have to one now. Their explanation for the horns is they have a sensor, a camera sensor, at the tip of each horn to give it a better view to help it look around. But you look at this, and it's obviously designed to be terrifying, to the point to where if you go to their website, the official website of this thing, they have a system put in place to where if the compressed air fails, it stops. The legs lock up. It can't do anything. And they also show a handy diagram where they have put the chambers, the tanks for the compressed air, in a specific spot in the chest, and they give instructions and say to disable the bot, shoot it here. This sounds like people who are quite confident that there's going to be no problem with this thing, isn't it?
I can't take credit for this because I wasn't the first to notice it, but that thing looks an awful lot like the creature from the movie The Ritual.
Yes. Yes, it does. It's matte black from horn to hoof. It's matte black finish with the little round circle glowing eyes. In the history of horrible ideas, this one's got to rank in the top 10 easy, but what disturbs me the most is they came up with this functionally. It's not a bad idea. You send a robot in when you don't want to send a person climbing through the debris and the destruction and the fires and everything else to rescue people. Okay, yeah, your heart's in the right place. But then one would assume they had meetings, they had a design committee, they had multiple people sign off on, well, let's make a 6-foot demon and give it a chainsaw. That'll help. We have got to quit giving stupid people money. I mean, that's not new. That's always been the case. But go look this thing up. It's Satyrs. Go look up the Satyrs robot so you can see it for yourself, because you're not going to get the full impact until you actually see it. The website also gives instructions on what size doors it can and cannot go through, so that you can plan out spaces that it can't get into. It's got a chainsaw on its hand. It can go anywhere it wants. Just cut the wall out. You're not helping. I think back to the Jurassic Park quote. Your scientists were so concerned with whether they could, they never gave a thought to whether or not they should. This thing is the poster child for that idea. Rhino, I have enjoyed it, buddy.
I just want to see the next iteration of Robot Wars where you take the demon robot and put it up against the Kawasaki Lion four-wheeler thing.
Yes. That thing also, you're not getting away from it. You're not going to run away from that. And just for spice, it can be refereed by a Roomba.
With a knife strapped to it.
Yes. Like a butter knife.
The attack Roomba.
Yeah, because, the Roomba is ruling the roost there. Have a good weekend. Be safe. Enjoy yourself. And we will talk again soon, my friend.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.